everybody. My name is Alexandra Gaston, and I'm the host of Nerd Out. Welcome. It's a show where I get to sit down with some amazing people that I have some contact with and have nerdy conversations. Why? Because I want to. And today my guest is V. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, what are we going to nerd out about today?
I think we're going to nerd out about the hobby that revolves around tabletop games for sure in terms of miniatures and making terrain.
Cannot wait. I got a little bit of a glimpse of the very, very impressive channel that you have.
Thank you.
And I watched you build a tree out of a Pringles can.
Yeah. I like to say I make trash into treasure.
Okay.
It's a lot of repurposing things you're just going to have around the house and stuff that you've used and actually making it look like something beautiful or different or a castle or a tree in this case. But yeah, it's a lot of fun just to kind of take the little random bits. And I'm a horrible hoarder. Like, I'll find pieces off of packaging and stuff, and I have like too many drawers now filled with just these bits and pieces. But then there'll come a time when it's time to make something, and I'll open up that drawer and it's like, oh, okay, you can be like a fan for like a sci-fi piece of terrain. Little things like that. So it's just so much fun to kind of play around with things and think outside the box, and you create these pieces that people really won't believe what went into it once you're done with them.
And how did you kind of get into this?
It's always a good question. Ever since I was a kid, I was always making things for my dolls.
Okay.
Much to my mother's consternation, because I used to take her shoe boxes and stack them together and tape and cut, and I would turn them into, like, you know, Barbie dream houses.
Were there shoes still in them?
Yeah.
Where are my shoes?
Yeah. So I would take the shoes out and tuck them in her closet, and I would take the shoe boxes with me, and that infuriated her because she would keep her shoes organized. But I was always making things like that, and then making the outfits, because I was sewing since I was 5, so I was making the outfits for the dolls, and then obviously you grow up and you're not doing that so much. But what happened is my husband started doing Dungeons and Dragons with our kids, and they got really into it, but they were also very young.
Okay.
The youngest was 3.5 at that time.
So you didn't want like choking hazards?
Well, it wasn't that, it was the attention span.
Oh, so I'm thinking instant like death, and you're going, no, attention span.
No, it was more the, okay, let's put the grid on the table, and this is this, and that is that, and they're looking at the X's and the O's and the different marks, and the 3-year-old's like, huh? So he realized he needed something on the table to engage them. So he had started using paper crafts, where it's like you print it out and you cut it out a certain way and you glue it all together, and then you get these buildings and walls and all this wonderful stuff. And he was keeping me company one night, and I was like, oh, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm making some walls. I'm like, why? I'm like, these are small. What are they? He goes, oh, it's for the campaign. I'm like, okay. And he starts explaining the whole concept of creating tabletop stuff. And for me, I'm like, oh, it's like when I was a kid and did all that. So I sat down, I started watching what he was doing. I'm like, oh, why don't I help you with that? Like, I'm not taking it away from him, but it was things like he was trying to make like a chapel type of backdrop. So I was like, hey, I can do that. And I just took the pieces and put it together, and boom. And then we got the computer for the family, and I was looking at the packaging, and I was like, this could make a really cool temple. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, this could be a really cool temple. So I took the packaging and I like stowed it away, and when I had time, I started working on it. And at that time, there was a crafting group on Facebook for DM Scotty, and people were sharing pictures and everything like that. So I took the temple that I made and I shared pictures, and all of a sudden, like, people were freaking out over this. And I was like, what just happened here? I just posted pictures saying, hey, look what I did. And then I started making pieces that he needed me to make for the campaign. He wouldn't tell me when they're getting used. He was actually good about it. But as I was making pieces, I started sharing them, and people were like, hey, could you make a video?
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And I was like, okay.
Sure.
So the first video I did was diamond tiles. Instead of like the classic square grid, I had skewed it so it looked like, you know, parquet floors and stuff like that. And people went nuts over it because you were still able to use the grid system if you wanted to, but it had a different slant to it. So like, well, how did you do that? So I did that, and that was the first video. And then the second one that really took hold was the spiral staircase that you could actually put minis on top of. It was like, and that was made out of foam, toilet paper tube, and paint and glue type of stuff.
When I knew I was going to be sitting down with you, and I kind of went back and I was looking through a couple of the videos, and I was starting to fully grasp the creativity and everything that went through it, it really called back to me when I was a kid. And building spaceships out of cardboard boxes.
Exactly.
Or during high school, you have like the homecoming week.
Yeah, of course.
And it was like Disney themed, I think. And I dressed up as Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom, we went and got a oversized green shirt, and we cut it because it came down to like here at me, and we cut it so that it looked. We got green tights, we dyed them, and I had a brown belt. I think it was actually this brown belt.
Oh, funny.
Because reasons. And put it around, and I wore her shoes, and I went to, and she made my hat out of felt and everything because we were, we tried to piecemeal stuff. And I went to go to school the next day, and I realized I was missing one very important component. I was missing his dagger.
Oh.
I didn't have his little dagger, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I'm looking around, and I grabbed a wooden spoon and tinfoil.
Oh, yeah.
And I wrapped it around, and I made it a sharp edge, and then I made the hilt part, and then I just had the spoon, and then I put it in my belt, and I called it a day. And it was stuff like that. It's the creativity that goes through it, and the ingenuity of just seeing something for more than what it is.
Oh, absolutely. It takes you to a different world because you'll look at pieces, you're like, oh, I know what you want to use you for now, and just pull it over, and just it's fun. I mean, I enjoy looking at my workstation and like the in progress pieces that I have going, and I mean, my husband will come downstairs like, what you doing? He's like, just wait.
It's okay.
Just wait.
I know where it's
gonna.
going.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be so good. It's going to be so good.
Yeah.
And so Dan was telling me something about some fire skulls.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, don't spoil it for me.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear this. What are these fire skulls?
They're basically took some, like Halloween, you can find all these like random decorations of skulls and everything like that. And we needed them for the campaign. Didn't know why. I'm like, okay, we're making them. No big deal. Yeah. So I ended up making these things using these plastic skulls and hot glue and different paint techniques and a pin. So it looks like they're floating, as opposed to like stuck on, like when you get them on the table.
How big were they?
Oh, like the skulls are probably like the size of my pinky nail.
So just like mini, like actual plastic skulls.
Yeah.
And then what, do you hot glued probably the flame around the head?
Yeah, you take the hot glue and you have to do a certain technique where you actually hold the skull upside down and you take the glue and draw it down and you actually have to blow at the same time. That was fun to try and explain on the video.
How many of those were stuck to you?
None.
Listen, okay. Then you're already like God proportions, because I guarantee you, I look at a hot glue gun and I've lost 6 layers of skin already.
Yeah, well the trick is it's a low temp hot glue gun.
Oh, see, that's cheating.
Well, not really, because people think you have to go for hot glue, and really a lot of the stuff works with the lower temp and you can manipulate it more.
But if your skin isn't in it, is it really crafting?
Oh yeah, totally. I also got a lot of burns and injuries like when I was younger, because I mean, I used a hot glue gun when I was younger. I worked at a florist where we had the cauldron, like it was basically a crucible, and you put the hot wax in. So God forbid if you touch that stuff. That was like liquid lava. Yeah. So I got my knocks early in life. It's like I know how this stuff works.
You've done your time.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's so cool. So how many of those did you make?
I think I made like 6 of them for us. Yeah.
So what do your kids think when they see this?
They love it. Oh, they have so much fun. Like they'll come downstairs and because my table's lifted, my younger one comes up and his head's like just at where the table is. And he's like, oh, I see you're making a ... And I'll be like, not quite, but I like that you thought about that. And then he'll come down like another couple hours later. Oh, I see what you did. I really like, and takes it apart, not takes it apart, but like looks at it and like points out the parts he likes about it. And it's fun. They get intrigued by it. And then I'll be heading upstairs and I've discovered he's taken out the Scotch tape, a pair of scissors, and grabbed a cereal box that's been sitting by the garbage can to go in the recycling. And he's now making things for his games.
Oh God, that must be so cool to see though.
I love coming downstairs and finding them in their own little worlds, creating and doing their own things. It's the crafts. They've also gotten into building the PCs and making their own games, and it's enriched their life because they see what I'm doing and they see you can take stuff and make things out of it.
Have you started hiding your shoe boxes yet?
I don't keep them. I use them myself already on stuff. Oh, no. It's like they're not going to last very long.
So from the point you posted a picture, it's gone crazy. Now we're starting to do videos. At what point did you realize that this was a life of its own?
Oh God, I think when the channel hit 500, and it didn't take that, like it was 500 in like I think 4 months or something like that. And it's one of those things, I wasn't trying. It was more like I was just doing, and for me, because I used to teach, it was like having a video classroom, so to speak. So it's like, okay, here's the lesson for today, pop it up on YouTube, see what people have to say about it.
Yeah.
And then when I got to 500, I'm like, oh, this has kind of turned into something. And I started to take it more seriously and incorporated doing the terrain as well as painting miniatures. And my whole thing is I always want to make it accessible and open to people just starting, because it can look extremely intimidating to see these pieces when they're done.
Yeah.
And think, oh, I could never do that. It's like, no, wait, you have everything in your home at this time. I can guarantee it. And you're going to end up with this. So for me, it's fun seeing people getting their aha moments and they're starting to make things, and then getting posts and emails where they'll send me what they've created, like, look what I made. I followed your tutorial and I did this. And they're sending pictures, and some of them come back and like they're even better than I had done the first go around. You sit there like, it's like, no, for me, I'm like, yes. Like I get so excited when I see it. I'm like, yay, you did it, and you did it really well. So it's been a great way to reach out and touch base with people who find that doing the crafting and the painting side of things, it gives you sort of a zen-like moment where it's relaxing and it's still immersive, and you kind of create your own stories as you're going along and creating your pieces. It's a really unique experience all over.
And it's yours. And
yeah.
I think what I love about it as well is that for the most part, it's pretty cost effective.
Oh yeah.
And and it's nice to the environment because you're recycling, and you're recycling for some good, awesome storytelling needs.
Yeah, exactly.
But when it really, oh goodness, there's like so many different things that are going on in my head because I love that so much. So where do you hope that it goes? Because we've gotten pretty big at this point.
Yeah.
I was just on the channel the other day and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's grown. Honestly, I'd love to build a community that's just supportive and encouraging and welcoming, and people don't have to worry about, if I share this, is someone going to go, ha ha, and you'll get comments and stuff, but I'm quick to delete those. I'm quick to monitor and encourage positivity. And it's like, unless someone specifically says, I want critique and criticism, it's like, no, encourage it. Let them, feel good. Look what you made. You did this. Because once they get that confidence, that's where they want to try more, and that's where they want to branch out, and they start learning new techniques and building different things and creating different concepts. And if anything, it helps our community as a whole because we learn from each other as these different pieces get shared with one another. So for me, I just want to see this channel become a place where it's a haven. Like, okay, I want to learn how to do it. I want to dip my toes in the water, and I want to feel safe. That's really my ultimate goal for the channel. Because
your husband was running a D&D game for your kids. Were you a part of that at the time?
I jumped in midway, which was fun. The kids got a huge kick out of that. They didn't really know I was going to be doing it until the day it happened. They didn't know what my character was going to be.
You were like a surprise character?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, all of a sudden they had this little druid gnome riding in on her panther.
And
they flipped out. They absolutely adored it, and I still miss her. She's so much fun to play. But yeah, that's how I got into the game with them, and because I was playing with them, it was helping me get more ideas just to start building different bits of terrain so that it could be used whenever we needed it.
Had you played D&D before, or was that your first introduction to it?
That was my first into D&D, so that's like almost 4 years now. Yeah, over 4 years now.
And so you're talking about going, and so you've branched out, so you're taking the things at home and you're making them into things, but now you're also adding miniatures into the bunch.
Yes. Yep.
So if you haven't played D&D before, so had you painted some form of miniature before?
I had not painted miniatures before. I have a history of painting.
Okay.
So like I've done canvas art and that type of thing and watercolors, and so I had the technical skills, but I've never shrunk it down. So my husband has the old Hero Quest miniatures, and I took one of them and was like, okay. And I started painting this thing, and it wasn't that bad. So we ended up buying more miniatures, and it was more just the process of starting and seeing how it goes. And now it's at the point where I like to share what my techniques are to help out people who are just getting into it, because a lot of what I do is mostly like the 3-foot rule is what we call it.
Okay.
It's like, okay, let's get it so it looks good 3 feet away from you from the table so the players can enjoy and see. But it's not one of those things where it's like you can, hold it up and be like, let me just analyze this completely. Because again, getting into minis, that's even more intimidating than building terrain.
Especially just by minis like this big.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, they are like so compact.
Can you make one that's like this big? That might be better.
Oh, they do. They have like bigger miniatures.
I just want my miniature to be that
Like
big,
this one.
and just we'll pay a map
Yeah,
outside.
yeah.
So I can paint it easier.
Yeah, my chat on Wednesdays for the live stream, they're like, well, when is a miniature not a miniature anymore? Because there's this Call of Cthulhu one that's like the size of a toddler. But they still call it a miniature. We were laughing about that one. But yeah, it's like once I got some techniques and I felt confident when I was doing it, I was like, you know what, let me relay this to other people, because I'm one of those people where I truly kind of fly solo, so I wasn't watching other channels. I wasn't looking for tips. It's not like, well, I know paint does this. Let me see if it works on that. And so it was my own trial and error process where I'm like, oh, so this actually works really well, and this is probably a good thing to share with others. And it's just, there's now the terrain, and there's also the miniature stuff happening, and it's just, it's wonderful to share with everyone and get the reactions. And again, I'll get emails and pictures and look what I painted, and hey, I got the eyes, which I always crack up about because the eyes are very tricky.
Eyes are hard.
They are hard.
So we've talked about how this has impacted others.
Yeah.
What has this done for you? I can only imagine being able to have this outlet and being able to kind of see that creativity fostered in your kids.
Yeah, it's been enriching overall, both for my children and for myself. And it's one of those things where when I sit down now and I think about everything that's happened, I've realized every step I've taken through my life and every experience I've had as a student, as an employee, as a teacher, it's all come together in very bizarre and interesting ways. So it's like I'm able to put everything I'm able to do into this, and it's working. And so for me, it's like I get something done. It's just like, I did it. It's a wonderful, fulfilling feeling just to see it, you know, go up there on YouTube and hear that people, hey, here's a picture of my kids watching you on our TV. Literally things like that. So it's just, it's like, I still have my classroom, except it's far broader, and I'm meeting so many interesting people because of it. Is really what it's done.
That's awesome. And like so what is like your favorite thing that you've done? I want you to go back through the Rolodex of everything. For those of you who are under the age of 16, a Rolodex is like this big, and it's like round, and it's got everybody's phone numbers in it.
It actually rolls.
And my mom used them for recipes.
That's so cool. God. Okay, no, the incense burner from Walmart, the Tiamat.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There is an incense burner at Walmart. It is of a 5-headed dragon, and it's only $10. And I took it home, I painted it up, there's a tutorial for it, and I've made it into Tiamat. And because it's an incense burner,
it smokes.
It smokes.
Oh my God.
So you have like smoke pouring out of its mouth and its nostrils and everything, and it looks so cool when it's on the table.
Walmart is getting some weird stuff. So this is from Walmart.
Yeah, see?
I don't think they understand what they're doing.
No, or they are.
Or there's one person in Walmart that's like, you know, this
sliding
is a cool shape, but it's just secretly getting us poor nerds some D&D shit.
Yeah, yeah. So
if you had to sell this to somebody, if you're talking to somebody and you're talking about the best things about crafting, about making these things from things that you have at home, what would you tell that person to convince them to do that?
It's a chance to find time to give yourself time to think, realize your own creativity, and create something out of what you would normally consider nothing. And then have the joy of seeing it when you're done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think we're going to end it on that.
Okay.
Because I love how that was wrapped up. So I'm going to go to this camera because I heard that one turn off. Thank you guys so much for coming in today and joining V and I on Nerd Out. Like she said, don't be afraid to go out there, find stuff in your house, and see what you can do with it. We love you guys, and we hope to see you next week. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's episode with the amazing V. Go check out her YouTube channel for the best crafting tutorials. You won't be sorry. Also, don't forget to follow myself at Crit Charisma and the Variant Rolls channel at Variant Rolls on Twitter, as well as subscribe for more amazing content here on Twitch. Tune in next week, same time, same place, as I sit down with Stephen Rowe to talk professional networking at Comic-Cons. As always, I love you all. Be kind to each other. See you next week.